Hello and welcome to Property Matters. I'm Stephen Galpin, and today we're going to be talking about overseas investment in the property market in the UK. Now, helping me with this today is Sally Wang, who's a Chinese real estate advisor, bringing people to this country, and has introduced people to property all over our country, but in particular she operates out of London. And it's London that's seen the benefit of this sort of Asia Pacific area investment in the market here. Welcome, Sally. Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
And you've just come back from China, I think.
Yes, indeed. I'm still jet lagged.
Oh, you know, okay. Well, I'll take it easy with you, okay. Sally, interesting things. We seem to be going through a little bit of political turbulence here and difficulties with the economy, and a chancellor who seems to be fighting her ground at the moment. What's the Chinese view of our economy at the moment?
Stephen, I just come back from China. I've been there 3 times the first half of the year. And this time I spent a month in China, Asian Pacific area as well. I've spoken to over 100 families. And every time when I speak to them, the minimum length is 2 hours. The longest the conversation lasts to 5 hours. The previous trip, the longest conversation I had is 9 hours. From my personal experience, I think that it's not only just the UK, it's the whole world. So if we take the UK, if we only focus on this market, we see problems here and there. But if we stand back a little and look at the different countries, and every country's got their problems at the moment, as always. For Chinese, the family I met, they are all high net worth individuals, company owners, CEOs, CFOs, and all these highly intellectual, successful people. I get a feeling that their visions are very broad. They're not just focusing on the UK. They are aware of what's going on in China, in the States, the relationship between the USA, the China, the Europe, the relationship within the Europe, and also the relationship with the China, and also Asian Pacific, Japan, Vietnam. And these are all the areas that they put their visions on. So they see everything as a whole. However, when we talk about the UK as a particular country, they don't have that much deep understanding of what's going on here. A is because they don't travel that often. Everything they get, maybe it's from reading the newspapers and news, watch it here a little bit, and from the friends or people like me who can talk to them and give them some real feedback. But these are very personal and individuality as well. So for them, I think they have a broad understanding, but not a deep understanding. A lot of policies I need to explain to them, or they have to come to the UK and get a feel by themselves. So for example, before I come to see you this morning, I just met a young family, and he said, UK is very different from what we read in the social media or in the newspaper. I said, in what way? And he said, in the media, wherever they watch, they feel like UK now is it's very bad, the economy is very bad, it's not safe. They come here, they feel like actually it's quite metropolitan. They can actually start to plan the future life here. So everybody is different. What I advise people to do is if you are at a decision-making position, if your business is related to the UK, obviously you need to look at the numbers, the big pictures, economy, the politics and everything. But if you're just an individual family, and it's best for the people who want to understand the country to actually visit the country multiple times and get a feel about yourself. So my answer to your question, Stephen, is that not as negatively as you think. Yeah.
Okay. I know from my time visiting sort of Asia Pacific areas and Hong Kong in particular, people's view was a lot calmer than our own. They tend to take a much longer term view of things and look at things in a very calm and sort of penetrative way, which I think is very helpful. Here in the UK, sometimes we go through periods where even the government seems to be a bit anti-overseas investment in the property market here. But people forget that it's that very investment that kept our construction industry going, especially in London over the bad period after 2010. I mean, that investment really kept the property market going, didn't it? And I know you contributed a lot of input into that market, and you've been very successful. So I think people demonize things a little bit too quickly. But as you say, if people are prepared to look at the newspapers, look at the news, and then come and sample for themselves, what's actually going on, it's far the best way, isn't it? Yeah. And of course, rely on advice from people like yourself.
Saying that, Stephen, however, there are a lot of factors that's happening, and that's actually making the Asian investment in the UK declining at the moment. For example, the golden visas change. This year's April, the Nondom tax change, the renters reform bill, and also it's just a lot of changes that's happening. Yeah.
I think one of the problems that we have here is that our government seems very indecisive about what all these changes are going to be. I mean, originally the renters reform bill and the leasehold reform bill were proposed by the last government. They've been transferred to this government, and this government seems to be prevaricating on when in fact all these things are going to come into law. And I understand the latest to be that it could be very late this year or perhaps early next year now. But of course this causes unrest with investors, doesn't it? It's uncertainty, which investors don't like.
Funny enough, I have to say, the Chinese investors, they don't have this much knowledge about the renters reform bill. To give you an example, I have been going to China last November, and all the people that I've met, the Chinese landlords, 90% of them do not know what is a renter reforms bill. They don't even know this is coming. So, good agent or good advisors, I think we should go out and inform the changes. Renters reform bill, for the landlords, this is a big change. Obviously, there's a solution to it. I understand by looking at the logic behind it, I understand that the government, the UK government, probably wants to get rid of the accidental landlords, kind of regulate the rental market. But however, there are certain things that we're waiting for the result as well. For example, if you abolish the fixed term tenancy, then with the student, this type of applicants, the tenants, how are we going to deal with it as a landlord? How are we going to deal with it as a letting and management agent? We don't know what the term is, and then how are we going to take certain amount of money in advance? If we can't do it, how are we going to protect the landlord's benefit? Well, we can't buy the rental insurance. No. So I think the UK government is to try to put a balance between the tenants and the landlords. But however, how far do you go? Well, how to protect the landlords' benefits?
The difference is, Sally, that when the assured short-hold tenancies came in the late 80s, they were brought in because in the time before that, you had tenancies which turned into secure tenancies. A landlord could not get his property back. Whereas when the assured shortholds came in, they came in for an assured period of time. You knew as a tenant how long you'd got there, and the landlord knew that after so many months he could get the property back again, which created an incentive for landlords to invest in the property market and make more rental properties available to the public, which was great. But we seem to be going in reverse on that now. As you quite rightly say, a landlord's not going to be sure that he can get his property back.
So you're anti the change?
Well, I am really, because I'm a great believer and have been for many years, whether it's rather spurious lease clauses or the period or the conditions, whatever it is, I believe that if you as a tenant sign a lease, and as a landlord you sign a lease, it means that you mutually accept what it says. So why not just do what it says? You know, if it says you're there for 12 months, we'll be there for 12 months and then go.
I'm not anti this, but I just think that for whatever change we have, we should be more thoroughly think about the consequences and the protection scheme, for example, for students. Then I don't know whether the market will have the right insurance product will be providing to deal with the change. If there is, then there's a solution for it. So for every change that we bring, I'm not saying we bring, for every change that the industry or the government is bring, as long as they think everything through thoroughly, think about the consequences for both parties,
Sure.
and think about the solutions, and then that'll be fine. So I'm not against or pro. This is one thing that's actually impacting the we have not seen the impact just yet, because the Chinese or Asian investors, they are not fully understand. They don't fully understand what this means. But when they know, and if their agent, letting manager agent, didn't tell them in advance how to prepare for this, we will see a delayed negative impact that's further down the line. The ones already causing impact on the Asian Pacific investment in the UK is the Nondom tax. Nondom tax this year, I think, if I didn't remember wrong, it was 6th of April. Then that's kind of, you know, the tax benefit is gone. So we've seen a lot of millionaires leaving the UK. And I'm not sure about the number, but I believe more than 15,000 millionaires has left the UK because they don't want to be taxed globally. So that I think make the UK the second largest country at the moment for the millionaires to leave. So that's that. Obviously, I understand with the new immigrations, the government have, you know, benefits for 4 years for the newly coming, the settled millionaires, but that's only 4 years. I understand the government currently is kind of doing this, stating the passive money investment to get their identity, and this era has ended. The UK government wanted to attract more talented people, company to move to the UK, actually really contribute to the economy. Understand the logic behind it, but still, you know, the consequences of this. Do we really want all these millionaires really leave this? They are contributing to the economy as well.
They're wealth creators, aren't they?
Yes, they are leaving the country as well. So, maybe we just, you know, on the ground, I'm doing my business. We're just on the ground. Maybe we didn't see the big picture, but this is what I've seen. The impact is that's impacting the Asians' investment in the UK. The other thing that's impact is, I mean, this is kind of a died down a little bit now, is the interest rate. The interest rate has grown for 15 times after COVID. So that actually changed the picture of the Asian investment. Now, because the global political situation and economy is kind of tense and very uncertain, so not only the Chinese investors, I believe the Asian Pacific in general, Hong Kong, Singapore, Vietnam, and the investors or the wealthy families, high net worth individuals, they're very cautious about making decisions in other countries. There are a lot of factors they need to consider. But however, I think in the next 5 to 8 years, the UK will still stay in the picture. The reasons being, education is still the thing. With the China and the US, the relationship, the tension is, you know, it's there. So a lot of Chinese families, the parents, they probably will be reconsidering whether to send the children to the States. UK probably will become, you know, quite hot in the next 5 to 8 years, education-wise. And Chinese parents, when they send their children to study in the UK, the property is one of the topic they'll be thinking of. But obviously, this is not a big amount of investment. It's for their families' planning. In Singapore, it's a very interesting market. Hong Kong has been quiet for a while now. I went to Hong Kong this time. I went to Hong Kong last year. Hong Kong was not the same Hong Kong that I went about 10, 15 years ago. This time is slightly better than last year. The energy is gone. The energy of the city is gone. It's not as vibrant as, you know, as new as 10, 15 years ago. There's an emerging market is coming up, which I find quite interesting. It's Vietnam. I find that Vietnam probably is 10 or 15 years behind China. And they have the same mentality. Education is the key. So Vietnam families, they probably will looking into the UK market. USA, it's very interesting as well. I've seen the numbers of USA's investment in London's prime market. They are becoming more active this year. They already surpassed the Chinese investors. I think this year so far, from the States, the prime sector, they already occupy more than 10% of the transition number. The Chinese now are less than 10%.
I see.
The prime. The Chinese buyers, investors buyers, their habits are definitely changing. They are definitely changing. We've seen the change. It's very interesting. We've seen less and less Chinese investors are seeking for trophy properties. Prime, we're seeing less of that now. And everybody, like at least, everybody, I speak of personal experience, they're looking for value for money. They're looking for stability. They're looking for a safe investment, hassle-free investment.
Talking of stability, I mean, we see in our newspapers, and developers and people interested in property look around the world at what's happening. And China has not been without its own problems in the housing markets and the development markets. Has that put off Chinese investment here at all, their difficulties at home?
Why would you think that they put off their investment here?
Well, I don't know. It could go two ways. If you've got difficulties in your own market, it might just put you off the whole property industry in total. Alternatively, you could be saying, well, because we've got properties at home that are causing trouble, let's go somewhere else. So I don't know. What's the view?
Yeah, you get both of the opinions. Chinese market, I feel like the problems. Supply and demand, this is started to surfing now. Too many new builds. Even in my hometown is a tier 3 city in China. A lot of high rises, a lot of stocks. Supply is more than the demand, demand, yeah. And also the developer, and I think some of the big developers, they do have a really high leverage loan, like borrowing the money from the bank. So when the economy is tough, they are suffering. But I think developers are suffering everywhere anyway. It's the hard times. So we see property price has dropped. Tier 1 cities are they are quite resilient, but the price is dropping. Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, I think the price drop is quite massive. This time I went to 8 different cities. I went to Tier 1 city, I went to Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, sometimes, I don't know whether that's a true figure, but some of my clients, they were telling me the price drop is about 30 to 50%. Of the property value. So when they have problems like that, as you said, naturally, they'll be, if they have the money, they'll be thinking of alternative options. Alternative options for a lot of people could be closer to home. For example, Japan. Japan is quite hot in recent years. Tokyo, Kyoto. I went to Tokyo and Kyoto this year as well, just to have a look at the market. So they can either go closer to their hometown or they go abroad. Go abroad, I think the States at the moment, it's it's dropping. Yeah, the political tensions and everything. The UK, it's still there because of education, the stability.
Is education still the biggest driver for wanting to have property in the UK?
I think so. I think so. UK's education is still a very appealing point for parents who focus on their children's education. But to add a 20% VAT onto the private tuition fee, this has put off some of the parents as well. So back to the declining trend of Asia investment into the UK. the private education, 20% VAT, that actually put off some of the parents as well.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. You wouldn't have thought such a relatively marginal tax would have such an effect.
Everything adds up, Stephen. Like, for some rich families, okay, if they think about sending their kids to UK for private school from 5 years old or 8 years old, and from that day onwards until the kids graduate from the universities, you're looking at maybe 1.5 million to 2 million pounds. And you add 20% onto it, that's quite a lot. And also with the economy, now it's not, booming everywhere. Maybe their business are hurting as well. So they need to carefully plan where to park the money and where to put their kids to school. Hong Kong used to be hot in the past few years because Hong Kong, you have the UK British system of education. In China, you have some international schools campus as well. So it depends on the wealth, but economy, the whole global economy, that's not helping. So 20% does make a difference to quite a few families.
Yeah. It's interesting. The situation in Hong Kong, I think everybody here expected more people to come from Hong Kong to the UK.
Hong Kong people actually has my personal opinion, again, it's my personal opinion. So I joined the property industry for more than a decade now, like 13, 15 years now. So previously, the Hong Kong people, after the 1997, I'm sure that you've seen quite a large number of the Hong Kong wealthy people invested in Canary Wharf, right? They're buying in this area. We have celebrities, Hong Kong celebrities. And then recent Hong Kong families moving to London is the BNO visa. So we're looking at the middle class who's got good jobs, got a family, stable. They choose to, settle in the UK, but they're looking for value for money. They're looking for retirement. They don't want to work anymore, a lot of them. So the areas they go to, Sutton, Surrey, Barnet, Cambridge, and Oxfordshire, they're looking at, the suburban areas rather than central London. Very few of them were looking at central locations like Canary Wharf or Kensington or Chelsea. They're looking for value for money and the space. So we definitely see the change in the buying behavior. And also, Hong Kong it's different. It's different now.
Yeah. Sally, one of the questions I want to ask you is that I can remember, more than 20 years ago going out to the sort of Asia Pacific areas and selling property. And it was very clear that if you didn't have a gym, a cinema, a swimming pool of a decent size and recreational facilities, you didn't sell anything. It was just no. But now, where we have such an emphasis on value for money, as you say, and service charge costs, which obviously affect your revenue from any property, has the thinking changed? Has it really come down to value for money now rather than all these special facilities?
Value for money is definitely one of the factors that's, like serving up become more and more the focus point now. But however, I think the big picture for the investors now is I would personally think, from what I see, I would personally think that the market is mature now. The knowledge is mature. Asian families and companies invest in the UK. This has gone on for more than 10 years now. Mainland Chinese, right? I've been in the business for more than 10 years. So I've seen this market has grown mature and mature and mature. So now we're at a stage we've seen more and more professional investors rather than individual accidental investors. So professional investors, what they think is more complex. They need a strategy. They need a strategy of what's the best option for them to spend the same amount of money. Before, let's say if they have £1 million, maybe they just purely looking at 1 million in Canary Wharf with swimming pool, and all that. Now, no, £1 million, you have multiple options. You have multiple strategy plans. you can use £1 million to borrow some money, and you turn that into 1.5 million to 2 million, right? You can use 1 million to buy one property in Canary Wharf like that. You also have options to buy 300,000 properties with rental yield at 6 or 7% or even more. Or you can turn this £1 million into one 600,000, one 400,000, one living and one as investment to create a passive income. This is just an example. The mentality is changing. At least, with me of this many experience in this industry, I've seen the professional investors now need a strategy of how to purchase, how to build up the portfolio, how to maintain the portfolio, how to pass on to the next generation, exit strategy. It's not just purely buy a flat at £1 million with swimming pool. It's more than that now.
Yeah. I'd say, as we discussed at the beginning of the programme, you've been very successful. I mean, when I first met you some years ago, you were talking about advising people to buy outside of London and look at the whole of the UK as a potential investment area. And I thought, well, I'm not sure she's right, but you've been proven right because your strategy has worked and it's been very successful for a lot of your clients.
Yeah.
So that's very good. But I think it is this educational process, isn't it, over a number of years. As you quite rightly say, at one time, if you could buy something glitzy in Canary Wharf, that's all you needed and it was a good status prop,
Yeah.
But now it's much more serious, and the days of just buying property and making money on it are over.
Yeah.
You can't
You're
just
right,
automatically think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You've got to have a strategy,
Yeah,
haven't you?
this is a really fun part of being in this industry. I keep telling all my clients said, Sally, why are you so energetic? You've been working like this nonstop. Your company is now quite good size. Why are you still working? I was like, I love it. This is the best industry you could ever dreamed of. Being every day is new. The market is constantly changing. And then the market is changing. That forces you to improve yourself. It's very interesting. 10 years ago, we sit here with £1 million. We're talking about this strategy. That's out of the window. Now, 2025, we're sitting here, £1 million. We talk about this strategy. 5 years down the line, Stephen, we sit here, £1 million. Oh, we can do this and this and this. Market is evolving, it's changing. This is so fun. I find this is very fun. Yeah.
And if you don't move on and you don't change, then you get left behind, don't you?
Oh yeah, 100%. And then you get kicked out of the market. Yeah. Then, yeah.
Sally, it's been marvellous having you back again. Welcome back to the UK from your travels.
Yeah,
thank you. Let's hope you don't spend too much time abroad in the future, because we want to keep you coming back to the studio.
You should come to China with us.
Well, perhaps we will. We'll have to save up though. So anyway, look, Sally Wang, thank you very much for coming in. A big thank you. Thank you for watching. I'm Stephen Galpin. Join me again next time on Property Matters.